Grateful you could stay on. I am Pious Kojo Backah. Straight up to our very first story. Government has extended the expiration date for the domestic debt exchange program to 30th December 2022 to allow for key concerns raised by stakeholders be accommodated in some form. According to Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, confidence and active participation of all stakeholders are the essential elements for the success of this debt exchange program. Giving an update on the economy today, Ken Ofori-Atta stated that government is committed to laying out a pathway towards attaining debt sustainability informed by sound technical analysis and broad stakeholder engagement.
Economic and structural reforms, the IMF and government signed off a staff-level agreement on 13 December 2022 for a US $3 billion extended credit facility. So far, we have all witnessed the gains of the CD over the past week, as well as the attainment of the staff-level agreement in near record time. These are results of our collective efforts. As 1 Samuel 30:19 says, nothing was missing, great or small. We must and we will collectively recover all. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to recover all, we still have a lot of work to do before the end of the year in order to gain the full benefit of the debt exchange program. Following the stakeholder engagement, government has agreed to extend the expiration date for the domestic debt exchange to 30th December 2022 to allow for key concerns raised by stakeholders to be accommodated in some form. The launch of the debt exchange program, coupled with the signing of the staff-level agreement of the IMF, have aided our stability efforts and have in particular contributed significantly to the rebound of our currency. While accommodating the inputs of stakeholders, we must do all we can to sustain the gains of these initiatives, keeping in sight the urgency of obtaining IMF board approval in Q1 2023. The cost of this not succeeding will be too huge for our economy.
Well, he also urged Parliament to pass the appropriations bill for the 2023 fiscal year.
And to support us in getting the appropriations bill for the 2023 fiscal year passed. We also urge Parliament to support in particular new revenue measures outlined in the 2023 budget, which aim to improve revenue mobilization. We cannot afford to repeat the mistakes of 2022. Our end game as a government has always been to achieve a Ghana beyond aid, a wealthy, inclusive, sustainable, empowered, and resilient society, a wiser Ghana. The necessary precondition for this is a stable macroeconomic environment. Viewed within that lens, restructuring our debt is only but a necessary part of our story. The ensuing years will focus on building an entrepreneurial and export-driven economy as we grow the economy to protect and create jobs, tackle inflation, and strengthen our currency. Importation of food should soon be a thing of the past. We cannot afford to lose this essence of forward momentum for our economy as we navigate towards stability, predictability, and growth. 2023 must be our comeback year, a year in which we put in place stronger foundations that will allow us to change our country for the better and in a way that is enduring, inclusive, and transformational. We all have a role to play, and I urge us all to work together with the government and support the various interventions being implemented to kickstart our recovery in a determined, bold, and courageous way. Above all, I urge us all to maintain an unshakable sense of optimism about Ghana in the
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta there, a while longer on the economy, and a financial analyst has described as a rushed decision the government's announcement of a suspension of all debt service payments. Now, the government announced suspension of all debt service payments under certain categories of external debt pending an orderly restructuring of the affected obligations. Now, the suspension will include the payments of Eurobonds, commercial term loans, and on most bilateral debt. It will, however, not include the payment of multilateral debt. new debts, or whether multilateral or otherwise, contracted after 19th December 2022 or debts related to certain short-term trade facilities. But speaking earlier on the marketplace, financial analyst Dr. Richmond Etuahini said the government should have waited for the implementation of the debt exchange program after extending the deadline for institutional bondholders to sign up to the facility to 30th December.
The institutions that have credit lines, some institutions have credit lines, in terms of credit lines. Immediately you say it, that they will be cut off. They will be cut off. And if they are cut off, it would affect the external trade. So it's the implication is quite big. But I would have thought that we would have tried to complete the debt exchange, the domestic debt exchange, and before we go and do the pre-default, so that we could negotiate with them very well for the haircut or whatever they were talking about. You're going to have a tap. There's no two ways about that. And the literature support that you're not going to have it, because you're telling them that I cannot, or I don't have. Therefore, wait and let me tell you what you can do. If you're hard pressed for time, you set your time frame, and you should make provision for, especially the domestic. You see, the domestic debt restructuring would have helped in the external restructuring. But now that you're having a problem to do it, people are now beginning to say, oh, there is no confidence. I would have thought that we have a lot of time. We had time from July up to today. The engagement, as I've always been saying, there needs to be a good stakeholders engagement to tell people the reason why we are doing it and the benefit for us. Not only the benefit for physical space, what we do to industry, what we do to the private sector. If all these things we knew from July, we could have programmed ourselves very well that we shouldn't have been hard pressed by time. Now we haven't done that. We are getting hard pressed every day, every day. So we are taking some measures that, for me, in your negotiation, is not going to be easy.
Let's now touch on some energy-related stories. And the Chief Executive for African Energy Consortium, Kwame Jantua, has taken a swipe at the government for not implementing measures to forestall dollarization of the economy. According to him, this is having a toll on the energy sector. Speaking to Joy Business at a workshop on quarterly tariff adjustment and net metering guidelines, he said the energy transition agenda may grind to a halt if the menace is not addressed.
The chicken and egg situation, and as you see, where our electricity is concerned, the dollar plays a huge role in it. And the dollar plays a huge role in it primarily because of the IPPs that we have. Can we extricate that? I don't see how we're going to extricate ourselves off the dollar, not unless we have a policy where we de-dollarize our economy. If we are able to de-dollarize our economy, like some other countries have done, South Africa for that matter, then maybe it will be possible. But the situation we find ourselves in has shown us that we have to de-dollarize. We have to bring inflation down at all points. We have to bring the cost of importation down. These factors contribute to the dollarization of our economy. If we don't de-dollarize our economy, it becomes difficult because it feeds into our electricity generation. So it is something that we need to sit down collectively, not only as a government, but collectively, bring everybody on the table and see how do we start that process of de-dollarization. And where we find ourselves today, is it a huge advantage for us to say we need to do it? Because look, you go to some countries, you try to pay your hotel bill with dollar, they'll tell you it doesn't happen, go and change it. But it's also got to do with mindset. Because even in Parliament, you hear them talk about, and it costs this X dollars, it costs this Y dollars. It doesn't help us. We need to have a conscious effort, and we need to be serious about de-dollarization.
Moving on to some other stories, the Minister for Communications and Digitalization, Ursula Wusu-Ekufo, has indicated that there is the need to strengthen the tech ecosystem to sustain the sector and develop more tech startups in the country. According to her, the government is developing a startup legislation to ensure the development of startups in the country. Here is more.
The National Information Technology Agency organized an ICT stakeholders forum to engage partners and technology entrepreneurs on some regulatory measures to safeguard and build their businesses. The forum was under the theme Regulating ICT Businesses and Practitioners in Ghana. Speaking at the stakeholder forum, Ursula Wusu-Ekufo said, "There is the need to develop and support tech entrepreneurs."
We are in the process of developing the digital economy policy for Ghana, which will be the successor to our ICT for accelerated development policy. That policy is also currently undergoing stakeholder consultation, and they've made significant inputs and enriched the process. We need to look at our laws and regulations as well to see if they are fit for purpose, and that legal gap analysis is also being conducted. At the end of the exercise, if we have to amend existing legislation, the proposals for amendment will be laid before Parliament. If we have to craft new laws, we will develop new laws. For starters, we're developing a startup legislation to guide the growth of the startup sector in this country. It wasn't available for us, and we know we have a very vibrant tech scene in this country, and we want to encourage and grow this sector so we can produce more tech entrepreneurs in this sector. So we've already identified that gap and are working to develop a law to guide the tech and startup ecosystem in this country. There may be more, but the gap analysis would let us know once it is completed, and then we'll take it from there.
Head of Corporate Affairs at NITA, Emmanuel James Fiagbenu, added that the ICT sector lacks standardization and needs to be regulated to help build Ghana's digital infrastructure.
The lack of standardization, that is why. So there is definitely a reason why NITA, it got into a time that NITA thought that needed to. You know, the government's agenda is the agenda of digitalization. Is very critical. That informs part of why NITA is doing this. And so the standardization is one of the key things. As I said already, without standards, anybody can just do anything. And we can develop. And the digital economy will not grow if we don't make sure that these things are all in place. So standardization and rules, so regulation is all about observing certain rules that are set within an ecosystem.
The National Information and Technology Agency, in partnership with the Institute of ICT Professionals Ghana, held the forum to interact with ICT professionals on how to regulate their operations to build the sector.
Talking about startups, the Ghana Enterprises Agency has cautioned beneficiaries of various government funding programs to make use of the funds to attract the necessary growth into the economy. According to her, this is the surest way to ensure more funds to be channeled into the revival of the micro, small and medium enterprises in the midst of the harsh economic condition. There's more in the following reports. Speaking at an event to sign another agreement to expand the COVID-19 response grant scheme to micro businesses, Chief Executive of the Ghana Enterprises Agency, Kosi Aye, advised the beneficiaries to use the funds for its intended purpose. More than 400 people have so far benefited from the first phase of the program, which has been supported by the World Bank and other partners. The CEO also pledged for more support next year for the sector.
Our advice to them is really to utilize the funds, because people assume that they'll never come back for support, but they always come back, right? It's something that we've seen. Another cutbacks, those who got the loans, who had come back for the grants, we actually put a hold on giving them funding because they hadn't paid some of their loans. And so you'd see that people actually go and pay it off. They know what they're doing is wrong. There are also those that will say that, oh, I didn't help. There are some who genuinely have challenges with their businesses, so that's fine. But there are those who also might misuse the funds, which we try to stop. And so we advise them use it, because this project doesn't end here. Next year, like I mentioned, in the second week of January, we're going to roll out a major program. And that intervention would also expand and grow businesses. And if we're going to do that, and you haven't utilized your funds properly, then you're not going to really benefit and support to grow your business. So if you're serious about growing your business, this is a time to take advantage of the various interventions.
He, however, noted that despite challenges in retrieving some loans from the sector, the agency is working to retrieve the monies.
Because some businesses will not do well, some will also do well, and all that comes with it. But we are collecting as much as possible. It's important to know that you gave funding at a time when businesses were struggling. And so you have to put that thought behind you or in front of you in making certain decisions. And we're moving ahead and we're doing collections.
About 100 MSMEs are benefiting from the second phase grant scheme. This is still Business Live with me, Pious Kojo Backah, here on the Joy News channel. Let's touch on mining, shall we? The Chamber of Mines has made an appeal to the Ministry of Trade and Industry to take a critical investment in the provision of local content for the mining industry. According to the Chamber, this has become necessary to ensure that Ghana positions itself to take advantage of the investments in the sector. Chief Executive of the Ghana Chamber of Mines, Suleiman Kone, made the call in an interview with Joy Business after addressing members of the Chamber and stakeholders at a local content workshop and exhibition in Accra. There is more in the following report.
Some major multinationals in the mining sector have raised concerns over the inability of skilled labor to take up critical contracts in the industry. According to the Ghana Chamber of Mines, there has been enough progress with regards to getting their members to use the services of local producers. Chief Executive of the Chamber, Suleiman Kone, however, believes that a more conscious effort from the Ministry of Trade and Industry will further boost efforts of the Chamber and the Association of Ghana Industries to get more local firms to operate in the sector.
Our belief is that because this lies within the bosom of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, it is important that they show more interest, in the work of the Ghana Chamber of Mines and its member community, especially when it comes to local content. Of course, it also requires that we do a lot more work. That's why I said that probably working in tandem with the AGI, we should be able to get the Ministry of Trade and Industry showing more interest. Because, see, what we do through local content ultimately will benefit the Ministry of Trade and Industry. And that's why at the policy level, there should be that kind of synergy, that kind of relationship for us to really help build, the fabrication and manufacturing base of our economy.
The annual local content workshop and exhibition is part of the move to create more platform for stakeholders. Speaking at the event, Chief Executive of AGI, Seth Chum Akwabwa, called on the multinational players to access the capacity of the local service providers and support them in meeting their required results.
If you're a local supplier, it is good, you get some margins, but the percentage you make is not enough to turn around the economy. You should actually go into local manufacturing. And here, workshops are important, as I mentioned, seminars are important, coming together is important, but we can move to another step where we actually strike deals and do proper arrangements. Pick companies that are producing some of these items. Sit down with them and say, let's assess your capacity. What volumes can you do within what period? What are the interventions that is needed? Who has to play a role in making you work? And we can still do this on competitive basis.
The workshop was under the theme, Local Content in the Mining Industry, a Catalyst for Economic Development.
Let's now do something in the downstream petroleum sector, and the National Petroleum Authority is asking private organizations and all other players in the sector to complement the NPA's safety protocols by providing in-service training to haulage drivers and fuel transporters in a bid to forestall adulteration of fuel products in the Ghanaian market. Earlier this year, some groups of petroleum transporters raised concerns over the lack of safety and ill treatment of transport service providers. However, As a company keen on safety, Puma Energy organized a transporters quiz aimed at ensuring drivers and their assistants understand their roles beyond just driving the truck. There's more in the following report.
The Transporter Quiz competition brought together stakeholders in the petroleum sector. The event, organized under the auspices of leading global energy business Puma Energy, is targeted at ensuring that drivers and their assistants understand that their roles go beyond just driving the tracks. Christoph Densiken is Managing Director of Puma Energy Ghana.
We transport, as you know, hazardous products every day on the roads in all the countries. And our purpose is to energize community. And to energize community, we have to keep people safe, environment safe. So that's why safety is paramount for us. That's number one. Second, we use transporters, contractors for transport. But for us, Puma, because it's our product, because it's our service, the contractor safety is as important as our own safety.
For their part, the National Petroleum Authority is asking private organizations and all players in the petroleum sector to complement the effort of the National Petroleum Authority in ensuring safety within the industry. Linda Asari is Deputy Chief Executive Officer for the NPA.
So when it comes to transportation of petroleum products, it's very paramount to our operation because the product should get there with no adulteration or dilution. The drivers should drive at very safe mode and make sure that they get the product to the final consumer without any contaminations. So this program is very good. I mean, in addition to what DVLA is doing, Puma is making sure that the drivers are adhering to all the safety protocols. We also have other players in the industry who are also same as Puma, can also add up their bit to training their drivers in safety protocols, in addition to what NPA is doing to make sure that the quality of petroleum product is not altered.
She also noted that the NPA is strengthening measures to tackle smuggling of fuel in Ghana.
So product smuggling, NPA has a role to play as well as other stakeholders like GRA, customs, immigration. So we are collaborating with the national security to check that this product coming through unapproved route. We are putting our heads together and we are tracking all this. We've made a lot of arrests. I don't have the numbers here, but there are measures in place to cramp down on this illegal import of petroleum products into the country through unapproved route. The drivers, we have had engagement with the owners, the tanker owners, as well as the drivers. We have gone far, very far with discussions to make sure that they are well taken care of in terms of remuneration. So that one is still under discussion. So you can see that they've now laid down their tools because they are so much satisfied with what NPA is doing to make sure that they are giving some compensation to the job they are, because the role they are playing is very important. Without them, we can't get the product to very far areas. And it's a very important, and NPA also protects that kind of role they are playing.
And that's it for Business Live for tonight. I am Pious Kojo Backah. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Always a pleasure serving you. We've got some international business news for you.